What's up, guys? Here are my predictions for UFC Fight Night in Belem. To be honest, this also doesn't look like the greatest card. Very similar to the last card. It doesn't mean a whole lot. Usually these cards perform pretty well. I'm very interested to see what happens in the main event, and also the Valentina Shevchenko fight, and the Thiago Santos versus Anthony Smith fight might be the fight of the night or the performance of the night. So we're going to start with that fight. These two guys are finishers, but in a different way. Thiago Santos is a fast starter, and he's an explosive striker right away, whereas Anthony Smith relies on his toughness and his heart and his ability to come back in fights and finish the opponent with his striking. Thiago Santos, he's very athletic, very wild though at times, and fast and powerful for the division. These guys are huge. He's really good with his kicks, really good with his movement. His punches get wild, they come from wide ranges, and the straight punches of Anthony Smith are going to be a problem for him. But Thiago Santos does a really good job at keeping that kicking range. And Anthony Smith likes that kind of range, although he is good with the infighting, even being tall and long as he is. These two guys aren't the most technical fighters. They more rely on their attributes and their physicality. Thiago Santos is a little bit flashy at times. He can throw some really flashy kicks. Other than that, it's not the most technical kind of fight, I believe. So what I see in this fight, I do see Thiago Santos giving Anthony Smith trouble. But I don't know why. I see Anthony Smith being able to weather the storm, pulling through and coming back in the fight. Now, this is a very hard fight to call because when you have a guy like Anthony Smith who is just so tough and durable and his chin's insane and his ability to come back in fights is unlike a lot of fighters, it's really hard to predict a fight like that, especially with a guy like Thiago Santos who's a fast starter but then will probably fade if he tries to finish Anthony Smith. So my prediction for the fight, it's really tough, but I'm going to go with Anthony Smith. I think he's going to get hurt in the fight, and then later in the fight, I think he's going to get a more gassed Thiago Santos with those straight punches on the outside against the cage and come right on the inside of any labored shots from Thiago Santos. So I'm going to go with a second or third round TKO, following the trend in his UFC career. And then we go to Valentina Shevchenko versus Priscilla Cachoeira. I think that's how you pronounce it. This is by far the biggest differential in skill out of any fight on the card. A lot of people don't know who Priscilla is. I did some research on her just to see if she's going to be some dark horse that upsets someone like Valentina. Well, Valentina is one of the best strikers pound for pound in women's MMA. She doesn't have the most power, which kind of hinders that, but skill for skill and technique and speed, it's very hard to be better than Valentina is. She could throw anything on the feet, go with Superman punches, spinning kicks, inside leg kicks. She's a Muay Thai fighter, although she does have some other skills coming from Taekwondo and other striking disciplines. Extremely fast, and she's coming down to 125, so she's gonna have some strength with smaller fighters than she was fighting in bantamweight. Now, she has all those skills, but she is more of a counter fighter, and she doesn't move a whole lot. She stays in front of you and tries to counter you, especially with that check right hook, some inside leg kicks, and she's really good with the Superman punch when the opponent doesn't commit on her. She's very strong in the clinch as well, really good trips, and her base is solid. That comes from judo, that comes from her Muay Thai background as well. Good with the knees, good with the elbows. But in the clinch, she's way more busy. She's way more assertive. Very different than in a distance. At a distance, she doesn't really dictate the pace in the sense that she's not assertive. She's not the one being aggressive. In the clinch, it's completely different. She's even strong enough to take down bigger fighters like Amanda Nunes and Holly Holm, which is kind of crazy. And then you go to Priscilla. Priscilla's more of a boxer, a wild, stay-in-your-face, pressuring boxer. Her name's Zombie Girl. That should tell you enough to know what she kind of fights like. Her style is uber aggressive, and that's going to play right into Valentina's game. She has some power, though. She has some TKO wins, and she does not stop. Her output's insane. She has heart, and she has pretty good cardio, I guess, for the amount of output that she throws. But she's never fought anyone nearly as good as Valentina. Her boxing style is pretty sloppy. Haymakers, huge uppercuts, right straights, and she likes to plant again in a parallel stance in front of her opponent and just bang it out from there. And she does duck a lot in the pocket. And she could eat a knee that's scary, especially with someone as precise and as fast as Valentina. The check right hook, I think, is going to be open all day for Valentina, especially on the inside of those long hooks, those wide hooks. But the best thing for Valentina to do and stay out of any kind of danger, she has to use some movement here, because she's going to get pressured heavily. Unless Valentina decides to take the fight to the ground. I don't know how good Priscilla's on the ground. Most of her fights are standing. But my prediction for the fight, I'm going to go by a decision, or I see probably a second round submission for Valentina. I see it as being a very, very dominant fight. We'll see if the zombie can bite the bullet. No pun intended, but if she can get through Valentina. If she gets clipped by Priscilla, I don't know what to say. That'd be the biggest upset probably ever. Her style plays right into Valentina's game. So then we go to the co-main event. John Dodson versus Pedro Munoz. Skill for skill, this should be a pretty interesting fight to watch. John Dodson is pretty much a striker, more so a boxer than anything. Very fast, super fast, probably the fastest guy in the division. He hits hard, even for bantamweight. His movement's very weird. It's like robotic and static, but quick. You know, he's always moving his feet. Very short steps, though. So he has power at every distance, at every point. Big power in that left hand, and he sets it up behind the right hand. Sometimes he almost throws like a back fist to measure distance and then throw the left hand. He doesn't throw too many kicks. His takedown defense is insanely good. He's so athletic, so fast to get a hold of. That's going to be a problem for Pedro Munoz. But Pedro Munoz's guillotine's insane. And you saw in John Dodson's last fight against Marlon Moraes, he almost got submitted by that guillotine. And if Pedro Munoz has that on John Dodson, fight's pretty much a wrap. Pedro Munoz is pretty wild on the feet, very aggressive though. He likes to have that option of taking the opponent down or pressure the opponent so much that they try to take him down and he just snatches on that guillotine. Wide punches. He likes to use some leg kicks as well. You know, it's going to be really hard for Pedro Munoz to strike with John Dodson, but John Dodson has a problem moving backwards a lot. Especially when he's really pressured and the opponent's not giving him any openings. Munoz does have a pretty solid striking defense. You know, he's really good at keeping the guard up at all times and blocking shots and then returning with his hooks as the punches deflect off him, which could be a problem for John Dodson. And I think he's going to have a lot of output on Dodson. The grappling advantage is going to be completely for Munoz. The striking, I think, is going to be for John Dodson. But if I have to make a prediction, I'm going to go with John Dodson. I think his takedown defense is going to be a little bit too much for Pedro Munoz to take him down. And the striking is going to be, I think, a bigger advantage for John Dodson. Even looking at the Marlon Moraes fight, I mean, he dropped Moraes early in that fight, and that speed advantage and that straight left hand on Moraes' wide punches, very similar to what Munoz does. You know, it was a problem for even Marlon Moraes. The kicks, though, could be a problem for John Dodson. You know, that reach, kicking range, and everything like that. But if it gets into the boxing range, John Dodson's going to have a big advantage there. So I'm going to go with Dodson. I'm going to go by a second round TKO. Then we go to the main event, Lyoto Machida versus Eryk Anders. This is a very interesting fight. Lyoto's return didn't go too well, and Eryk Anders is on the rise in the middleweight division. You got Lyoto Machida, who's a karate fighter. Really good movement, really fast movement. His knockouts really come from his speed and his precision that opponents just don't see any of his shots coming at them. He's really good at cutting angles so suddenly and landing the straight shots and then exiting on them. His kicks are precise as well. Kicks with the foot rather than the shin. That naturally has more distance. Very precise straight left hand, but he's older now. And his chin doesn't seem to be the same. His chin actually never looked like it was the greatest. Actually, it looks like whenever he gets hit clean because he keeps his hands down all the time. So if he gets hit, he's going to get hit hard. And Eryk Anders has big power. But Lyoto does also have pretty good takedown defense, which is going to be pretty good for him in this fight because Eryk Anders is a very strong wrestler. And then we go to Eryk Anders, who's a wrestler with big power. His boxing's getting better. Anders is really good at setting up that left hand. He's also a southpaw fighter, and he's actually pretty good at fighting southpaw fighters. Actually, everybody's fought in the UFC so far has been southpaw, and the last guy he fought was Marcus Perez, who has a kind of a similar style to Lyoto. Very awkward movement, a lot of kicks, and an in and out punching style. You know, fast left hand and everything like that. So that's a very good fight for Eryk Anders to go through to get prepared for this one. Strong wrestler, go with the double leg, but he really likes to keep it on the cage and pressure the opponent. He has good cardio as well. Big power with that left hand, and he really lunges in there with it, which could be a problem against Lyoto. If you come straight at Lyoto at a similar pattern, which Eryk Anders does do, usually the fighter gets intercepted and it doesn't end well for them. So my prediction for the fight, it's kind of a tough fight to call because of Lyoto's age and everything. On paper and the skill sets and everything like that, I believe Lyoto's skills on paper is enough to beat a guy like Eryk Anders. But when you come into those X factors, it makes it a little tough to call. I'm going to have to go with Eryk Anders. I think the age of Lyoto is playing a big factor. His chin is kind of gone. If Eryk Anders lands that one big left cross that he's really good at timing off his lead hand, and he's pressuring as well, which is going to be a problem for Lyoto, I think Lyoto is going to go down from that. And he can land shots off the takedowns. You know, if his takedowns fail, he can just land punches over the top, and I don't think Lyoto is going to see those. So I'm going to go with Eryk Anders, and I'm going to go by a second or third round TKO. So yeah, guys, those are my predictions. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. Also, leave a comment below what your guys' predictions are, who you guys think are going to win and why. For my next video, I'm going to break down one of the fights of the card, so be on the lookout for that. And next week, I have some really interesting videos coming out. Some really fun videos that I think a lot of you guys can engage in, so be on the lookout for those. I'm actually working on 3 currently. I'm going to have to slow down a little bit and work on each to get one out before the other. It's going to come out early to mid next week. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.